It's okay?
Yeah. Okay, anytime, go.
Okay. Hello and welcome to Modern Gnostic. My name's Jeff, and I'd like to do a bit about why we're here and what we hope to achieve. Um, See, what happened to me to motivate me to do this quickly uh, was I decided to become an atheist. And I couldn't become an atheist without engaging a meaningful search before I let go of certain dogmas we've all become attached to. Um, so I figured it wouldn't take long. I started my search, and it took longer and longer and longer. And then, of course, I wanted to get to the most original record of the Gospels that we had. So I got some Gnostic Gospels and meditated on all that for a while. I was on an email list called Alexandria, where there were a bunch of people talking about the shape of idea, and a rabbi and I were doing a ayun over the internet. We had just started, and I engaged a meditative experience that lasted 7 days. Um, that it happens is common. People have certain attitudes towards it, but what happened to me was 7 days long. And when I was examining the record, I see Judas had 7 days of secret sayings of Christ. And I figured that was the original meditative experience. And then there's the Martama Church and all of the stuff around the revolution, the rebellion in Jerusalem around that time, and of course anyhow, it gets really messy. It's a real mess. But the point is, the original Christianity wasn't this historic Christianity. It was a Gnostic type of Christianity, and the reason that we get a proliferation of Gospels is not because that people like to tell lies, but that people like to experience truths. And this is what they were doing, and they were writing it down. So I have an opportunity to express an error that kind of got us here. Um, Anyhow, that's my motivation. So I think it's important that people collect all the data they can and then consider all the data, including experts that they've talked to, but not to engage any particular dogmatic lessons until they see kind of for themselves any kind of truths that might present. Don't listen to people who say, oh, don't listen to that, just listen to me, I'm going to tell you this. No, listen to everybody. You listen to everybody, collect as much data as you can, and then put all the facts together in a way that makes sense for you. And that's how we all come together to make truth. So, anyhow, that's how I got here. And then there's how we got here. So, how I see our history and how we got here, starting with the Bronze Age collapse. Archaeologists have done a lot of work on Egypt. We know a lot about Egypt. We know how old Egypt is. We know a lot about the Hittites and the land that they invaded. And, it's just, it's so rich, and you could go on about so much stuff. But I think the important thing for this modern Gnostic context is that after certain perhaps natural disasters, people in different cultures got together and decided that this kind of kingship thing was nonsense. I mean, if you know anything about, well, if you've looked into it at all, and I've only looked into it a bit, but Kadesh is a war that happened between the Hittites and the Egyptians. And it was recorded on big things and printed all over the place, on the Egyptian side, Pharaoh won, and on the Hittite side, the Hittites won. But the thing about it is, if you look into the details, what happened militarily doesn't make any sense. It wasn't a military engagement, it was a political exercise. And so these leaders made this political decision, and all of the people who wrote stuff down, all of the people who believed in stuff, because there were wisdom schools in various cultures, and in the Egyptian culture, it was the wisdom school of Thoth, the god of wisdom, and so the scribes kind of engaged all of these things and meditated on this and pursued their truth. just like other cultures did. And so when Pharaoh told them to write this stuff down, this nonsense down, I'm sure there was just this horrible in their stomach, right? So anyhow, after that we get the sea peoples coming together, which is possibly the Greek people and the Phoenicians, with nobody ever mentions, interestingly enough, and the Egyptians, like the Egyptians that were stationed in the Levant after Kadesh. Uh, Got to know the people there, lived with the people there, and along with the Philistines and I don't know who else, all kinds, I'm sure, got together to overthrow this kingship thing. So it was like the first labor action. It was the first time that people got together and said, man, this is nonsense. We don't need to be pulling these big stones around, making these big things. We can just get together and live our lives and be very comfortable. And so that's what they did. And as they were doing that, things kind of started falling apart, and the scribes from Egypt, and I'm sure the wisdom people from the other cultures, recognized that they needed something to bring them together, to make a family out of these pieces. So they came up with Judaism. Moses does many, many miracles, and I personally do not believe in impossible miracles like the parting of the Red Sea, or rising from the dead and stuff like that. So to me, Moses was a construct. And in the Egyptian culture, you have Thutmose and Amos and Kamos. These are all pharaohs, and so many Thutmoses, right? Because Thutmose is the wisdom school. So, oh yeah, and then you get Akhenaten, who is like the sun god guy, right? In Egypt, he makes the sun city. So now all the scribes have to go to this sun city that worships the sun, so they don't put any roofs on any buildings. They all got to stand outside in the sun all the time, worshiping this one God, because Akhenaten had a meditative experience of unity. So they didn't like that much, and that kind of compelled them to leave as well. So you get the Exodus, and you get Moses, which is sons of Egypt, because Thutmose is son of Thoth, Amos is son of Ea, the god of moon or something, I'm not sure. And Kamos, I think, is the son of Ka, who would be the god of war or something. Anyhow, there's these various gods, and the god Mos is the son of that god. So when you get Moses, you get the sons of Egypt. It's like they made it that way so we could figure it out. So anyhow, that's how I see Judaism being born. A whole bunch of wisdom schools coming together. The interesting thing about the Phoenicians, they taught everybody writing. Like, writing in most cultures was reserved for the wisdom schools. The Phoenicians, as I understand it, would just teach anyone writing. And after the Bronze Age collapse and the Sea Peoples coming together, which I think included the Phoenicians, they knew how to make glass. Anyhow, so then you get these ABCD areas where people start learning at home. They have these home schooling, and like we have schools now where we send all our kids to school all the time. I think that's when it started. And, I don't know, but anyhow. The point is, Judaism started out awesome. It was great. And then you get Greece and all those, things going on, and Rome growing up. And the thing about Rome is it was like it started out good, but then it became kind of just military. It was just the military and a big tax thing. There's no, they'd just go and, they had their gods, but they never really, they did in the beginning, but not in the end. I don't know. Anyhow, the point is, it got really shitty. And then people were like slaves again. It was just like before the Bronze Age collapse, before the Sea People Rebellion. So again, you get people, worrying on this and like, man, this is living under the thumb of these people or those people or whatever people, and the wisdom school is coming together, and there's this meditative exercise which I mentioned previously, and then Judas has his meditative experience and gets shipped off to India, where he starts the Mahatma Church. His meditative experience compels tax revolt, which compels Saul or Paul to go around getting Christians straight so that they could pay their taxes, and then the revolt in Jerusalem and the historic Jesus, and That's when Christianity started. So the basis of Christianity is the Gnostic exercise, and that's why I call it modern Gnostic. And that's I think we need a modern Gnostic church, because there is this meditative experience, and it does ground Christianity, and that's all. You don't have to say anything more about the meditative experience and any propositional within it, but that it is, right? I mean, if you look at what the Gnostics believed, it's pretty wild. And like I said in the other video, it might be true, but the basis for that requires a whole different culture. We're so far from that, right? I wouldn't even pursue that. It's so dogmatic, right? So anyhow, after the beginning of Christianity, in the Gnostic dynamic, you get the fascist dynamic. So after the rebellion, Caesar takes over the religion, and they turn it into a religion of pacification, so that the people can again pay their taxes and just be, meaningless cogs in this big machine that pays its taxes or moves its stones, right? However you look at it. So anyhow, Christianity proceeds for that many years until now, and we have this meaning crisis and this fragmentation of Christianity, where Christians of this faith and that faith and that faith are all arguing with each other and other faiths. That's not Christianity, If you look at people who love the truth, then you see they got together and they made science. They said, look, people can't trust other people because of all of this sleight of hand going on. Back in the beginning of Christianity, there was 12 people would get together and meditate, and there was a veil. And yeah, behind the veil, somebody would be up to something. They'd be banging pots, whatever, making people believe all kinds of wacky shit. And then the veil was rent. And then, there was a lot of Greek skepticism 2,000 years ago. The veil was rent. This was exposed, and people got that it was bullshit. So I'm sure Thomas Judas had a hard time, with his experience. But anyhow, the point is, science got together because people love the truth. And if we ground ourselves in science, we ground ourselves in people who love truth, which is what this is about. We have to overcome the fragmentation, and the only way we can do that is by finding common ground and reasoning on common ground to find more common ground. And the thing about science and reasoning on science with spirit, with consciousness, is that you find common ground everywhere. It is universal, truly. These are persons we're talking about. We're not talking about humans or animals, we're talking about cells, persons, in any context. So there's no constraint. It's everyone in truth together, right? And that's how we overcome the fragmentation, I think. Thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye.